I am going to do an introduction of our moderator for our very last session on this future of retail and next-gen commerce. Can you believe it's already our last panel? This is amazing. We've had a great day. It has totally flown by. Jordan is the research director with Research 451. And one fun fact about Jordan is that he actually serves as a judge on the GSMA's Global Mobile Awards. And he gets to determine what is revolutionary in mobile payments. So what more of a perfect way to have Jordan host a conversation with Michel Léger of Ingenico. Michel Léger is the EVP of Innovation at Ingenico, and they're going to discuss what happens next. Now that we've driven foot traffic into the retail store, how do retailers and merchants deal with that? So let's welcome them both to the stage. Thank you.
But you won't let those robots.
Right. Good afternoon, everybody. So Michelle and I are here to discuss what I think is probably one of the more contentious topics in retail today. It's the role and the relevance of the physical store in the future of retail. If we could open up the poll, I want to kind of provide a little bit of a context for this session here. So I want to start with a number. And that number is 8,000. 8,000 is the approximate number of store closure announcements that occurred in the United States last year, up about 200% year over year. We've sort of seen this changing of the old guard in retail, and certainly there's many announcements that would support this ongoing narrative around the retail apocalypse. Most recently, we've seen either full closures or significant closures from Sears, from Toys R Us, from Mattress Firm. But at the same time, we're witnessing this trend, this phenomenon really of online to offline. And that should give us pause, right? We're seeing companies like Amazon, Warby Parker, more recently Shopify, these digital natives make inroads into the physical world and essentially establish a physical brick and mortar footprint. And so that's what we're here to discuss today, right? What is the role of the store in the future of retail as we see online players coming offline and we see traditional players in some cases closing up shop. Just want to take a quick look at the results here. So the question that we asked is, which statement best represents how you feel about the role and the relevance of brick and mortar storefront? It seems that most feel that it needs to evolve to regain relevance and importance. So it could indeed be an important touch point, but it needs to evolve. And so Michelle, to start with you, as I talked about with the rise of digital channels, why do you feel that the physical store is still relevant in retail?
Yeah, I think there is a very simple answer to that, because customer likes it. If you take, any survey. You can look at, there's a lot of data around that, everywhere. People like to shop. They like to go and shop. So, and it's not a matter of generation, actually. Even the survey, done in the last generations still show that people like to go in store. So, that's a good thing to take in account, right? The second point I think that's quite important to look at, it's a great place to convert. Right? If you can get your customer in your shop, and if you can, get the right consumer experience, you get the consumer for you only for a long time, a longer time than what you'll get online, basically. So it's a great place to convert. So all of that put together makes the shops extremely relevant moving forward. So the question, as you said, is you still need to transform your shops. If you do it the whole way, you're not going to stay relevant. But don't think that people don't like to go in the shops.
So I think to your point, there is still a role, and there are certain things that retailers are getting right. And from your vantage point, what is resonating? What are they doing well? And then what are some of those aspects of the store that need to evolve, that need to change?
So, the thing that I see, most of the retailers are really, doing well is they understood that they have to be on all the different channels, and they understood that they need to connect all these channels together in order to create the proper user experience. So that's usually what's done quite well. But for me, it's just step one of the digitalization. So it's not enough. It's good to do, click and collect, and to, so you can buy online and get, to pick up in the store, but it's not enough. You need to do more than that. And to do more than that, you need to go to a second level of digitalization, which is about, in connecting all your processes together. Mm-hmm. You need to digitalize your process so you don't end up with a, very weak customer experience when they get to the shop. So basically you digitally connect it to them, you find a good way to bring them to the store, and finally they get in the store and they like back to the, last century or something, So definitely, so not something acceptable in terms of experience. So I believe that what they need to do better or do next, and first is to increase, the number of cross-channel experience. Mm-hmm. So click and collect is a basic one, but there are a lot more than that you can do, right? Basically, I think consumers are coming to the store with the same expectation than, shopping online. So they expect everything to be, designed and done in the same way. If you look at the social trends that you have to follow up in order to stay relevant in terms of experience, I think there is a couple of ones that you need to take in account. First, you need personalization. People are expecting to find product and services or experience that makes sense for them. Not the standard way for like the one size fits all, it's over. Mm-hmm. People are looking for something that makes sense for them. Second one for me is the contextualization. So what makes sense for me now is probably very different from what's going to make sense for me, on next weekend or whatever, depending on what I'm doing, what I'm buying, time in the day, whatever. The context is extremely important, and that's probably, the one that's not, tackled, at all from what I've seen recently. And the last one, in terms of expectation, is a sense of immediacy. If you look at the last, the millenniums, to take them as an example, they've been raised with everything, is just one click away. So there is a sense of immediacy of everything they want and they need. So you need to take all of that together to really, shape, the consumer experience you want to provide, whether it's online or in retail. But if you can't do that, something along this line in the shops, it's going to be extremely difficult for you to stay relevant, basically.
Yeah, no, I think that's right. The framework that we often speak with retailers about is this idea of the 3 C's: convenience, context, and control.
Yeah.
Right? It needs to be easy. It needs to be delivered on their terms, and it needs to be tailored to them as an individual. And I think those elements in some ways reside online today, but less so in the physical world. So Ingenico obviously has a vested interest in the ongoing survival of physical stores, right? As a point of sale company, you're evolving to offer a greater set of capabilities, and it'd be interesting if you could just talk a bit about kind of how you've evolved as an organization to help retailers in this journey, and sort of what do you see your role as in this transformation of retail?
It's quite interesting, actually. Even you saying that we're a POS company. We're not a POS company anymore. That's what we used to be, right? We started as a POS company and been a POS company for 25 years. But if you look at the last 10 years, we've invested, tremendously, in being a global payment acceptance partner. And why we've done that? Because we've seen the shift. You just cannot stay relevant if you're just on one part of the payment acceptance processes. You need to be everywhere. You need to be on all the channels, because the experience that your customer wants to create is cross-channel. And if you're not there everywhere, you cannot stay relevant, or you're going to be completely commoditized. So we invested a lot to be online, and then we invested a lot to even open new channels like bots, in messaging apps or voice commerce now in our innovation labs. So why? Because because that's how you stay relevant. And when you're relevant, now you're changing your position on the market. So you're not pushing just technology. You're helping your customers, which are merchants at the end of the day, to be more efficient in the way they're doing their business, and you help them do more business. So the question, you know, is basically the conversion. How can, you know, at the beginning, you know, when we were a technology provider, the question was, you know, I mean, you know, how cheap can you be, right? I mean, we were a point of cost, right? Now it's, you know, how can you help us to do more business?
Right.
How can you help us to leverage all these channels together, get a better conversion online, get a better conversion in the store, and so forth? So it's changing completely, I mean, the way our customer sees us. We're clearly now a business partner more than just a point of cost.
So, I mean, is it fair to say that the future of Ingenico is software and services? I mean, I know you came from the hardware world, but when you think, you know, 5, 10 years down the road, is this very much a software and services driven organization?
Software service, it's always been a software business actually, because I mean, whatever we think about payment is not global. Anybody thinks about that, I mean, need to rethink a bit. I mean, payment is local. You know, payment is different in China, in the US, in Europe, in South America, in Africa, you name it, it's different everywhere. It's cultural, it's completely local. So basically, it's a software play. You never ever sell just a box. Right. Box doesn't mean anything. You can get the best, I mean, cool looking box. What do you do with it? If you don't have the applications to accept all the different means of payments and connect to all the different systems everywhere, you're nowhere. So it's always been a software play. Just to give you an example, we're managing in the physical world, we're managing something like more than 300 different payment means. 300, you know, like, I mean, paying with Visa is one, right? So, I mean, it's a lot if you think about, I mean, everything that your customer wants to use as a mean of payment. And now that's, you know, it's getting all spread out, and now you've got, I mean, consumer, US, I mean, customer in Europe or in China, Chinese customer in Europe, and so forth. You need everywhere to be able to accept everything. So it's always been, you know, software. Obviously, services is very important as well, because if you cannot service your business globally, you have an issue as well. But I think what is even more important moving forward is to be in the transaction. Because in the transaction, you get the data. Right. And all the business models are evolving now and being really focused on database kind of business model. So
yeah, I want to double click on that, because that's an important point you bring up, and you know, just the role of payments and sort of how they've evolved and how retailers are looking at them today. Because I think traditionally, payments have been thought of as a cost center, as a cost of doing business. And you know, one of the observations that I've made really over the last 5 years is that, you know, payments are being looked at more strategically by retailers. They realize, you know, payments are more and more an input into the customer experience. Payments, you know, drive conversions. You know, payments are, you know, again, really a meaningful way for how the customer moves from being a shopper into a customer. And how do you think retailers should be thinking about payments today? Like, what strategic value should they provide?
So, payment is what I call the moment of truth. You know what your customer has done only when they have paid. So I mean, it's a very critical data about knowing your customer. So if you think about, you know, I mean, the experience you want to create, the personalization, the contextualization, blah, 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 everything we talk about, you know, you can only do that on kind of get to know, I mean, your consumer behavior only if you get payment data. Right. So it's no wonder why, I mean, you've got so many players now trying to come into the payment arena, on some big ones like the big digital players and so forth. It's because this payment data is actually key to the customer relationship. It's key to how you know your customers, and it's key on how you'll be able to, you know, understand their behavior and how to create this new experience. When you get the data, you know what they've bought, you know when, what time in the day, what day in the week, you know, is it in the morning, in the afternoon, I mean, whatever. You get a lot of information that can help you to create the experience, bring, I mean, you know, the offer that you want to bring, you know, and when you have to do that, and to get a better conversion at the end, get a better and also engagement with your consumer. That's why it's so critical.
What is Ingenico doing, you know, to sort of execute on that front? Are you helping, you know, your merchants, you know, repackage that data to drive new types of business insights today, or is that on the roadmap?
No, it's actually already on. So as I mentioned, we're on, you know, I mean, our business is 50-50 between product and transaction and services. So I mean, that's the transformation we've done in the last 5 or 6 years. So we get a lot of data now, so that we can use, that we can use to help our merchants to be more efficient in what they do. So it's on two sides actually. On one side, it's more, the operational efficiency. So we can tell them, how they perform against their peer, how they perform in such a country or another one, or against other industry. Why are they performing lower or higher than peers here and there? Because they are not, providing the right experience, providing giving the right choice of payment means, the right choice of currency, and then based on that we can help them, test things, and provide the kind of payment means or whatever their customer wants to do, and so we are using the data in a different ways to help them to be more efficient in what they do.
That's interesting. I think that is the opportunity in payments today.
Yeah.
It's to take all of this data that we're privy to as businesses that play across the value chain and build new types of insight-driven products and services around it to help retailers meet their customers better, to sell better, right? To drive business outcomes.
Because we understand that the ones that are not going to transform the way they do business, are not going to be relevant. They are going to be the ones that you see closing every day.
Right.
These are the ones that didn't transform their business model and how they engage with their customers.
So I want to go back to an earlier point that you were discussing around sort of this convergence of physical and digital experiences, because I think, as an industry, we've kind of treated them as silos for quite some time. Digital lives here, physical lives here, but increasingly it's things like click and collect and endless aisle that are actually, driving customers in the store, keeping them, transacting in the store versus going elsewhere. And I wanted to get your perspective on, sort of the omni-channel experiences that you're seeing resonate today, and which ones retailers might want to have on the roadmap.
So obviously, the simple ones are the ones that are used today, like the click and collect. I think there's a couple of other ones that should come to the roadmap sooner than later. If you think about, consumer trying to get the same kind of experience online and in store, then you need to offer the same thing. Like, for example, I don't know, if I bought something in the store, I get back home, I don't want this anymore, should I go back to the store? While in online, I don't need to do that. So refund by web is something that should be there, Otherwise, it's, again, a different experience whether you buy in store or you buy online, So that's one that should be there. The second one that I think is very relevant is what I call web in store. So we know that if you look at the statistics, and consumer, or a big majority of the consumer, will look, on their phones or tablet, when they are in the store, they will compare your product to some others and things like that. Do you want to leave them do that alone? Or would you try to engage with them in a conversation so you get a chance to demonstrate that your offer is better than the other ones? So, if you get, your staff in the store, you get them a tablet like that, you can get engaged, and saying, okay, you want to compare, let's compare together. If you're sure about the value of your product and services, you want to do that, right? You want to get a chance to explain, to support and explain the value proposition of your product and services. And then, at the end, if the customer is ready to buy, do you want them to wait for 10 minutes at the checkout? Or do you want to transform your tablet into a payment acceptance device so you can close your deal right away? So it's a good experience. They don't have to wait. They can leave right now based on that. So you need to digitalize your shop.
Right.
Digitalize the way not only you engage, with your customers, but how you digitalize your process behind it. Digitalization is clearly about different steps. First, digitalize your data and services, then digitalize your processes, and then digitalize your business models. So I think we are at the end of the first step, kind of, starting the second step, but it's very early stage, and it's something that's quite complex, because if you want to digitalize your process, it's not just about connecting the dots between online and offline. It's connecting all your system together into one single platform. So if you are a retailer, you need to digitalize your CRM and your ERP system. So it's all connected together with the payment system. which is, I mean, sometimes most of the problem we see that we're already on the payment side. We can bring all of that already. We invest a lot to do that. But then we find, retailers say, oh yeah, but now connecting to my CRM, it's very complex, and this one is not ready. And so you need a platform. Digitalization is about platforms. I mean, that's a big step. And that most of them have to do.
Yeah, I think you're right. I mean, I think we are at a very early inning in this game, if you will. Especially mobile point of sale, right? I mean, to me, it seems like it's still being treated as an acceptance device for the most part. It hasn't fully evolved, broadly speaking, into a clienteling device where it's integrated with inventory, where it has cross-selling tools and upselling tools for the sales associate. I mean, if you want to keep customers in the store, you have to move beyond just thinking about card acceptance to thinking about a solution that's going to scratch multiple itches.
First, you need to think more than card acceptance. If you have a Chinese customer, do you want to use card or do you want to accept Alipay or WeChat? Or if you want to use card, maybe it's CUP, right? I mean, if you want to convert, they're not going to come with a pocket full of cash, So I mean, the kind of experience you want to create, and that's why your payment acceptance device needs to be really open to any kind of payment means, not just focus on cards. And as you said, it has to be more than just a payment acceptance device. It has to. That's why we're all moving to Android-based. I mean, terminals, and we've got a lot that we are pushing on the market. It's basically an open tablet. With a payment acceptance device connected to it. So that's really where you can, connect all your systems to this platform, so you can create the experience and get the right way to do it.
How about all this conversation about bringing augmented and virtual reality into the store, connected fitting rooms? Is that innovation theater, or is that something that retailers should be paying attention to and bringing into their storefronts? Yeah,
it's already existing if you look at it. And on that, the kind of thing that the consumer are expecting in terms of experience, that's probably the big step, which is the digitalization of the physical world. We're very early stage. There's nothing, at scale per se. And you've seen, you mentioned, a couple of initiatives, like the fitting room and so forth. You can mention all the initiative around invisible payment as well, so there's no more checkout. Everything is on the back, and Amazon Go or some other initiatives that retailers are taking. It's really about the digitalization of the physical world. It's definitely something that everybody needs to look at because that's the expectation.
Yeah, it's also interesting, just seeing how retailers are kind of thinking differently about the store itself. Less and less about piles of inventory in these large, multi-acre establishments and more, strategic storefronts. Look at, what Nordstrom has recently done in San Francisco, right? Where you actually can't buy anything in the store. You can go there to pick up online orders. You can go there for tailoring. You can go there for fashion advice. Look at Bonobos. Effectively, they've created a showroom, right? You can try on some clothes, and if you find the ones you like, they'll ship them to you. Yeah. Take the payment in store and ship them to your home. So just thinking differently about kind of the role and the purpose of the store, I think is another big trend that we're seeing.
It's basically treating your store as you would treat your website. Right? You see product here, you can even touch, try, whatever, but at the end, you want to carry everything. If your logistic is okay, because you need to work that out. If I'm able to ship, the product like in 1 hour or 2 hours, or depending on what I actually want as a customer, ship tomorrow or whatever. You need to give options, and that's what you want, right? You want to carry everything. And at the same time, you want, a choice of payment means. You want a choice of currency. You may want actually to change the way you pay later. That's another cross-channel experience. Like, I get back home, I spend way too much, during the day. I'm like, oh gosh, it's going to be difficult. I would like to, pay later, or pay in installment. Mm-hmm. Today, how do you do that? You have to go back to the store? Why couldn't I do that online? And change the way I finance my purchase after payment, So, the experience doesn't stop when the payment has been done. It's actually before, it's actually during, it's actually after.
Right. Permeates.
You have to think in a kind of holistic way, right? Looking at the global experience. It's never ever finished because at the end you want the customer to come back. So it's never finished, ever.
I think that's right. I want to get to a couple questions from the audience here, and I've been seeing a few filter through about Amazon Go, right? So lots of buzz around Amazon Go as kind of the future of the physical store, and you know, maybe there aren't going to be actual, you know, point of sale terminals anymore. It's just going to be app based. Just generally, I mean, what's your take on Amazon Go? Is that going to scale at other types of retailers? Is it just going to live with Amazon? General thoughts there?
I think it will go, I mean, above and beyond Amazon, and it's. I think it's a very nice experience for the Amazon customers. It's still a closed loop there. So for all the other merchants, the question is, how do you provide the same kind of experience, being more open loop, accepting other means of payments and so forth, and there's a lot of trial as we speak. A lot of merchants are very interesting. There's still, I mean, nothing that can really is mature enough to be at at scale. But I mean, but it's coming up. A lot of people are working on that. I fully agree. I mean, these are great experience for the consumer that needs to be developed, and we do. I mean, work on that with our customers.
Another one that came up previously around SMBs is actually a really good point. I mean, when we think about the future of retail, we talk so much about, you know, these large enterprise-grade retailers, but maybe if you could share with us what Ingenico is doing to help, you know, the smaller merchant, rethink their in-store experience and equip them with some of the tools that, you know, previously have only existed with, you know, these big multinational retailers.
So it's quite an interesting question, because actually, I mean, at the core of our job, which is to make sure that everybody, you know, no matter the size of your business, can access the same technology. So basically, we're working with the big ones in a kind of bespoke kind of way. We customize things for them, we learn with them, and so forth. And at the end, as soon as we get, I mean, the right technology, we package it in a standard way so SMB can use it. You know, so I mean, I can tell you, I mean, also, I mean, some kind of cross-channel experience that we're developing even for SMBs. Like, you know, you're a small business, but you still want to, create your loyalty system, but you don't have, you know, all the IT and so forth, I mean, resources to develop it. So we can package all of that together for you. So we work with the big digital players to, you know, help them board more, I mean, customer in their loyalty system, even for the big ones, actually. Basically, I can talk about Google. The other ones I'm not allowed to talk about, but Google, we announced something with them. So basically, if you pay with Google Pay, you pay to merchants, you're not, I mean, part of the loyalty, program that they have. You get a notification, you say, do you want to join? Say yes, you know, in a couple of clicks, you're in. So it's not like, okay, go on queue and wait for 20 minutes and fill 3 pieces of paper to join. I mean, automatically. So smaller business can accept that because it's all completely automated. And then when it comes to redeem your point, it's the same thing. You're paying and it's redeemed automatically because we recognize that you're part of the loyalty scheme. And you get some points that you can use in these transactions. It's all done in one click. That's the kind of experience that people are looking at. And because we package all of that together easily, it's easily accessed for even smaller merchants.
Right. Yeah, I think that's what's so exciting about, you know, this current time is, we're able to democratize all of these capabilities that were previously only available to the largest players.
That's our job.
Right.
You know, clearly it's our job to make it available for everybody.
So we've got about a minute left. The last question I wanted to ask you, Michel, is just around, you know, sort of the geographical landscape. You're somebody that travels and speaks with retailers, you know, all over the globe. Any sense of what, you know, specific geography is furthest ahead in digitizing the store? I mean, is it APAC? We hear about it so much. Is that really where it is, or is it elsewhere?
Yeah, I think APAC, I would say China
specifically
is quite interesting to look at. You know, if you look at what Alipay or what Alibaba, you know, and Tencent have done, what they understood is that digitalization is about the full ecosystem. So if you look at what they've done well, it's not pushing just Alipay or WeChat Pay. These are just enabler to a bigger e-commerce ecosystem or a bigger social network ecosystem. That's why they've been so successful. I'm not talking about the support they got from the government and so forth. There's a lot we could say about it. But at the end, what they did really well is to really create this digital ecosystem. So payment just cannot be only payment. This is exactly what we discussed today, right? I mean, the digitalization of payment is really about, an ecosystem of commerce. So they've done that very well. At the same time, card was not so developed at the time, so they could, also, leapfrog a bit. But if you look at it, during the same period, card payment has increased as well. But I think they understood that extremely well. That's why it's been so successful. And I think this is probably the only part in the world which has been so successful.
It's an interesting.
Kenya being another one.
Yeah, without a doubt. Unfortunately, we're out of time, Michel. Really enjoyed the conversation.
Thank you so much.
Thank you for sharing your perspectives with everybody. And everyone enjoy the rest of the show. Thanks for your time.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you. So one last thing we're going to do is at the very beginning of the day, I asked this audience for the track, what is the technology you think is going to be most revolutionary in shaping the future of commerce? And we've now had almost 100 responses. We're at 99 responses. And the hands down winner is artificial intelligence. So good news is there's lots of information about AI and where it's being applied in the fintech industry at this show. So go check it out and enjoy the rest of Money 2020. Thank you.